Here we are, hitting up events, drinking our way through Chicago beer, and trying not to miss a thing.
Yeah, because, the cork popped out, boom, it flies like fucking 10 feet. We're like, yeah, let's do it.
All you have to do is add some fruit, stir it up, and ride that milk-shaped wave.
Whenever I see him, I gotta take a photo with the most decorated brewer in Chicago, Jonathan Cutler.
It'll be like the stuff you hear. Every time you go to Floyd's, all the music sounds like this. Raw, raw, raw.
Sometimes you want a small beer, but really, you want a big beer.
You gotta take in all those big aromatic hops.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Waiting in line for a bottle release?
You should have never been a fad. The black IPA is delicious.
Hey, and welcome to Chicago Beer Pass. I'm Brad Chmielewski,
Brad, what's up, man? I'm Nik White.
and we are on site at BubbleHouse.
The House of Bubbles.
Yeah, special guest.
We got a special guest. It's Jon from BubbleHouse Brewing Company. How are
Hello,
you,
fellas.
sir?
I'm very good.
Yeah, so head brewer and owner, right?
Head brewer and owner, along with my
Mastermind.
wife. Yeah,
Okay. Well, great. Thanks for having us. This is awesome.
my pleasure. I'm glad you guys drove out.
Yeah,
Thanks for making the trip.
yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
We are in a beautiful Lisle, Illinois.
Right.
Western suburbs. Hello.
right down the street or right down the corner from Bavarian Lodge,
B Lodge.
Which,
I haven't been there in since 2009, it feels like.
craft beer destination for many.
Yeah, we get a lot of pre and post visits from.
Okay.
We're going to the lodge, or we just came from the lodge, so it's a good. It's a good spot.
That's our thought too. We might have to go there after we're all done.
I mean,
here.
we're already here, so
Yeah.
we might as well,
The hard work is open.
Yeah, we made it out. But I've been here about a year ago. You guys popped up. I was like, I don't know who BubbleHouse is. I should check this out. And so I drove out here, and you've done a lot with the place even since a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're a small team, so we got open. We came out, at the end of the pandemic, kind of, and so it was just like, let's get the doors open. We can pour beer, so let's pour beer.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been constantly working ever since to sort of continue enhancing not only this event space that we're hanging out in, but also the patio and things like that, because it's when we find time to do it, right?
Right. So how long has it officially been open? Is it about coming up
no-
on 3 years? 2 years?
No. About a year and a half.
Year and a half.
November
Oh, wow.
2021.
Huh.
21.
So, yeah, we were. It seems longer than that now, but it was definitely, it's about a year and a half, just about.
Congratulations, man. This is a fantastic space. It feels right in this joint,
Yeah.
What was this when you showed up? What was this place?
So it was a abandoned warehouse building.
Wow.
Actually, if you guys parked in back, I don't know, but the majority of our parking's in the back of the building, which kind of freaks people out sometimes. But there was another portion of this building that was actually condemned and knocked down.
Oh, damn.
And that's what
okay.
created all of our parking. So it was vacant for a while. Before that, it was like aftermarket automotive stereo and alarm systems.
Pimp my ride kind of place.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. And we were tipped off that it was coming on the market, and really liked the Ogden location in terms of street visibility, which is really cool.
Uh-huh.
And price is right, and it wasn't that far from home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were looking for a space. Did you have going back? What's your beer path or beer journey?
So I started homebrewing in around 2003. So shortly out of college, I was at the time for a few months still living with my parents, and they got bummed out when I used to brew in the kitchen and things like that. So, but kind of carried it on, and so that was kind of a hobby that just sort of ebbed and flowed throughout life, depending on when my kids were born. It went way down, or when we had a small apartment, it went way down.
Yeah.
But it was always kind of there in the background. In terms of ramping up to get BubbleHouse going, I was a participant of, if you're familiar with Skeleton Key
Yeah.
in Woodridge.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's right.
I went through their incubator program, which was like a 4 or 5 month kind of front of house, back of house, think about it as like an internship, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was coming off the back of some College of the Page business of craft beer courses.
COD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was, I've been working a corporate job for, at that time, it was 15 years, and we were just sort of like, all right, something's got to give. I want to change it up a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
So we just started kind of pushing out, trying to see how committed we were to any one thing, and everything kept coming back to beer a little bit.
Okay.
I didn't know that about Skeleton Key, how they
That
were
it was
kind
an
of
incubator, yeah.
that it was an incubator and they helped other breweries. That's actually very cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, really cool program, because what it did for me, which was hugely vital in terms of taking this, big risk of quitting a pretty steady 9 to 5 and throwing everything into this, was just sort of a confidence level of translating knowledge that I gained from those courses, from home brewing. I went through and did level 1 and level 2 Cicerone certifications. So, it was just really like, all right, functionally, they gave me a window into this is how it works, and I feel confident that I can manage through that process.
From like a professional level.
Yeah, so the pandemic really, I think, hurt that program a little bit.
Sure,
I'm not sure what the future of it is now, but
And tornado.
yeah,
and,
none of that helped. Right. So I currently, myself, Garage Band in Plainfield, and Brother Chimp out in North Aurora.
Oh, yeah.
Are all folks have gone through that program.
Damn.
So.
Yes, that's new news to me. That's cool. Well, congrats
cool.
on that. Was your thought like going through that to open up your own space, or was it just to go like maybe go work in another brewery, like be a brewer there?
No, it was always open up my
Okay.
own space. I mean, I think most of that was because, I don't know what it was because. Foolishness or just like, just a thirst for pain.
You're a man that knows what he wants.
Well,
you know?
I wanted to brew, and I wanted to have some ownership, right?
Okay.
Like my old job was very much, it was a corporate gig, so it was not bad by any means, but it was very little agency in terms of what was actually happening day to day.
Okay.
And that was, for me personally, frustrating over the long haul. So I wanted something that we could control and create a space that I felt, that mirrored some of the spaces that I've been to and really fell in love with, just in terms of the look and feel and, styles of beer that are being presented.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're the captain of the ship here. Let's talk about capacity. Like, what size did you go, and then what made you go that size for the brew house and the fermenters and such?
Yeah, so we brew on a 7-barrel PKW system, Portland Kettle Works. It is what they call indirect fire, so it's got burners and a blower that goes into a chamber that wraps around the lower quarter of both our HLT and our boil kettle. I went with them primarily because I have friends out on the West Coast, and before I opened this place, when I had free time and money, we used to go out there once a year, and while we were out there, we went and visited with them and kind of walked through their show floor, and they took us through their the production facility where they build all the tanks, and I was just really impressed with sort of the level of quality and what they were putting out. I went with indirect fire somewhat from a nostalgia factor and also from of cost avoidance of trying to avoid a steam boiler and all the different pipings and all the problems that go with maintaining that system over a long time. So that was kind of my thought process there. And then 7-barrel was really kind of a sweet spot that I hope I don't come to regret, although if I do, it'll be because of good reasons that we can't keep up with, producing enough beer. But it was really to try to turn as many different styles as we could. So my hope is that if you come here, today, and you come here 6 weeks from now, there might be 3 or 4 different beers up on the menu that you didn't have previously. Yeah. So that was really important to me because, you look at a market that you guys are very familiar with in Chicago that is very crowded. My goal wasn't to be on Benny's shelves right out of the gate and sort of be mass producing any one style of beer. It was kind of, let's brew as much and as varied of styles as we can, and then see what the community really picks up on and what they want more of.
Uh-huh.
And a year and a half in, some of those are becoming quite clear. So we're sort of changing our plan accordingly. But that's great. That's good feedback to have, and that's kind of smaller batches, more rotation that's exciting to me, right? I want people to want to come back all the time.
Right, and going with that system, especially looking for it during the end of the pandemic, getting something from Germany or China was that was just not going to happen in probably a timely fashion too.
Yeah, I mean, funny you should bring that up. I mean, I think I had this system picked out and partially paid for pre-pandemic.
Oh, damn, okay. Okay,
well, so we were sort of ready to go. We kind of were eyeing May 2020 as our opening date.
Okay.
Now, knowing how permitting and build out goes, that may have been wholly unrealistic regardless of a pandemic.
Sure.
But the pandemic hit and we sort of pumped the brakes. So, luckily we were in a position, the way our lease was structured, things like that, that we could we had a little bit more breathing
Right.
room.
You weren't forced to open and be like,
Exactly.
oh, crap, this didn't work out.
And,
oh, no.
yeah, and deal with all that. Now, my buddy Steve, who's at Brother Chimp out in North Aurora, he did open on, I think it was St. Patty's Day of 2020, and he's doing quite well. So
Yeah.
he was able to weather the storm, but I know it was not easy. So
Okay. Man. So we're drinking, we have a lot of different beers in front of us. You're talking about the styles and I don't know, the variety here, but what are some of the things we have here, and I guess what do you like to brew?
yeah, I mean, that was always an interesting question. Like when we were just starting to get going, people were like, well, do you have a theme or a niche in terms of beer style? And
Yeah.
I love way too many beers to really pitch ourselves as a hazy or a sour or any of that. So my main goal as a brewer is to have 12 taps flowing at any given time and have something that can kind of be a starting point for anybody. So I like to keep, a good 3 or 4 beers if possible, probably 4 as we move into more months of light end beers. So like right now we have the Kolsch, the Bohemian Pilsner, and a Saison, and I've got
That Kolsch was fantastic. I had one already, and
Proper glassware,
it
too.
was just gone. I don't
Yeah.
know what happened, and just
I appreciate that. That was a beer that I entered into the Skeleton Key incubator program. Sort of if you can say anything about flagship beers, that would be one of our flagship beers in terms of a style that we really love. My wife April and I went to Germany for our honeymoon, and sort of, I was dabbling in craft beer, but she was still very much a Coors Light sort of domestic light beer drinker. And Kolsch was really kind of a gateway of eye-opener in terms of like really fresh and complex, but also simple at the same time. And so she really fell in love with it there.
And she's on the bandwagon now.
So yeah, she'll always say that. Yeah, she'll always say that like she wasn't quite confident that I had really hit the mark in the first few iterations of homebrewing that recipe and kind of trying to get it to a point where she was like, okay, it's getting better now. It's getting better. Keep trying. Keep
But
trying.
I'll take that Coors Light.
But that's good because she's normally not a critic of my beer at all.
I love that she's passionate,
Yeah.
though. This sounds great. Man. Like,
She's the reason that BubbleHouse exists. You know, if she wasn't kind of in the background saying like, your beer's good, I'm my own worst critic. She was like, I think you can do this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Screw it. Let's go for it. So she was very much, she wasn't resistant at all. Let me just say that. She was pushing me. A lot of people go like, they have this stereotypical view of like, oh, well, what did your other half think? And I'm like, no, she was the reason that we're here, kind of. It's like, she's like, go do it. You hate your current job, go do it.
And at least giving you the criticism rather than friends. Or you're like, try my beer. They're like, this is great, free beer, yeah. But yeah, your spouse is often like, you can do better. You're like, damn it, you're right.
She understands the bigger picture, and it's not just like, oh, it's cool my husband made a beer. She's thinking about the entire picture.
Yeah. And I appreciate you guys bringing that. And I'm not going to throw any of my family or friends under the bus. But yes, as a home brewer, you get a lot of, oh, this is amazing.
Exactly.
And you're kind of like, I know this is not amazing, so.
You're like, take all this. They're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, this is not, your false praise is not good for me right now.
But yeah, that Kolsch beer, and that now Nick had the Smash, and I have the Smash. That's a fun style because I don't ever see a Smash
You never
beer.
see Smash.
Okay, so from day one, so the Smash you're drinking right now is, I think, the 4th beer I ever brewed here. So it was the first Smash beer I ever did. And ever since, we try to keep one on at all times.
Okay.
Because I really do think it's a great, it's a really informative style. It lets you isolate a hop and give people, even if they just want a taste of it, they might learn, oh, I don't like Mosaic. That beer does not hit my palate very well. So we've done Mosaic, Citra, Cascade, Amarillo, and those beers have been really popular. They're really, most of
Amarillo,
them,
that's an OG hop right there.
Yeah,
But
that's
most of them, drop out real clean. They're like, you try to keep them at a fairly, this is probably the stronger end of it at 6.5%, but most of them I try to keep in the 5.5 to 6% range. So they're, they're not too potent and people can sit back and enjoy them. But yeah, they've been super fun to try out, different malts and really lean into them and then tell people like this is all Pilsner malt and Citra. You know, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
So we'll try to keep doing those. The challenge for me now is balancing new recipes with bringing back beers that people are like, hey, when's this coming back? So that's kind of a fun and also challenging balance to kind of be like, all right, well, I as a brewer want to continually try to push into new territory and brew new things, but some people are like, we hung a bunch of our old menu boards up in the tap room so people could, hey, yeah, I remember that beer. I love that beer. When's it coming back? So that's been awesome, but it's also been like, now they're much more familiar and aware with like, why aren't you brewing that beer more?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Exactly. Passionate fans. Is
Yeah,
good to
what do
have.
you find that people out here are enjoying like more so? That's something we always like wonder when we go to these places, and especially living in the city, you could just either bike or walk to these places. So you're like, give me that 15% stout.
Yeah.
I'm just like gonna walk home, or I'll get the Uber.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like a lot of places, IPAs still reign supreme in terms of, your sell-through. So another of our kind of, the beer I brewed the most here is a beer called 10 Second Hug, which will be coming out. And it's got a good story behind it, but it'll be coming out next week. And then I have a 20 Second Hug, which is the double hazy version of that.
Oh, okay.
So this is the first time actually they're fermenting away right next to each other. So I feel that might make them even more delicious and lovable because they have that kind of that mutual effect on each other. So hazy IPAs are always big, but one of the things I think we get a lot of feedback on is our sours. So I try to make sure that we always have one or two sours, especially in the summertime.
Okay.
And people really seem to gravitate towards those sours. Typically going to be fruited of some kind, although I do just a dry hop, really clean sour in the summertime that people loved last year. But what I like about sours is, I don't really like thick smoothie style sours. I really prefer still like crisp, easily drinkable, low ABV beer that's
More
going to
of a
really
kettle
be
sour.
Yeah,
kind
they're
of
all
thing?
kettle sours. So tart, but not funky. Just really kind of crisp and crushable with a balanced fruit profile. So balance is always the key, I think, with any of these styles.
Yeah.
And then the other beer I would say that this community has really gravitated towards is our Mexican lager. Mm-hmm. So it started out as a collaboration that we did with the Park District. They do the Lisle Park District does a summer concert series throughout the summer. They do it July 3rd with fireworks, and then every Wednesday following that for a couple weeks. So we partnered with them, and we brewed this Mexican lager that we were pouring there. And I think we ran through it before the last concert series happened.
Okay.
So we've gotten a few more tanks in-house now, a couple bright tanks that we have to try to manage through that supply, but that's a beer that we constantly get asked. It's called Isle of Lisle, so I think the name also
it
kind
helps
of,
people be
yeah.
like,
People,
they
represent,
this is my brewery, it's got my name.
I think one guy said, like, just because of the name, I'd love to have that beer on my kegerator at home, just when people come over,
Yeah, you just finished that Coles too, right? It just
goes down easy and fun.
Right?
Yeah, man, it's very nice. Speaking of fun, man, when you think about the name BubbleHouse, right? You think about bubbles, and we're like, well, who doesn't like bubbles, right? It just kind of makes you happy to say it, And then you start thinking about other stuff too. But can you walk us through like how you ended up with that name, and then like maybe what were some of the ones that hit the cutting room floor before you landed on BubbleHouse?
So BubbleHouse it really kind of came out of just sort of a sentiment and a feel that we were trying to create, right? Like lively, fun, energetic. So we always talk about it from like a figurative and literal representation. So like literally, as you actually called out at the top of the talk, we are a house of bubbles, So like we talk about it from the minute I start seeing bubbles roiling on the surface of the boil kettle through, as a home brewer, I don't know if there's anything sweeter than that soft bubble through an airlock after you brewed the previous day, and you're like, we did it, it's happening, Like I didn't kill the yeast, or I didn't do something like we have life. So that bubble through the airlock, and then the bubbles, the carbonation in the glass are so important to the appreciation of what beer is and providing that sensory impact to you. So that was the kind of literal representation, and then figuratively, our favorite thing about beer, like my wife and I, is really going to a tap room and just feeling an energy, right? And we find ourselves talking to strangers in a brewery more than any other place on the planet because people are just sort of in a relaxed atmosphere. They're all there for a shared love of a product, and so you start having these conversations and just kind of blow your mind about the different walks of life that are all kind of bonded over a glass of beer. So that was really important to us, of creating a community space where people would come in and sort of lift each other up, bubble up ideas, as we say, and kind of,
I love it.
hang out.
That's cool.
I don't remember many on the cutting room floor, because if you've ever kind of scrolled through Untapped and tried to avoid overlap of a pre-established beer name or a pre-established brewery name, now that we're up like in the almost 10,000s, shortly, of breweries.
Yeah.
Actually, the Bohemian Pils Youthful Moon, I still get some mail sent to me for Youthful Moon Brewing Company. That was one of our potential early brewery names that came out of a story with my young son when he was trying to describe a crescent moon in the sky, and he called it like a youthful moon. So that didn't wind up, but it is now a beer name, so we tried to carry that through just a little bit.
Okay. And then the window kind of motif is just a house. Every house has windows. So
Yeah, that was just sort of a sketch that I did one day, and we just sort of fell on it in terms of just a clean, simple sort of, bubble house. You see it, and it kind of makes sense at that point.
Does anyone ever come in thinking it's a laundromat?
No, we did talk about that.
How dare you? How dare
I
you?
used to go to a laundromat before we all had a unit with no fucking laundry. So we've all been to laundromats, and there was a spot called the Soapbox.
Yeah.
It was a Soapbox, and it was down the street from my old apartment.
Yeah, or Pings would say boba tea, or, Yeah, there has been some of that.
But a laundromat,
I haven't seen anybody rolling with a bag of dirty laundry, and if they did, I would offer them a beer, and they'd probably be okay with it. So,
man, if I saw a laundromat and it had these beers on draft, though, that's a win. So if there's a second location,
Right, as you expand down your
That is
whole
true.
like,
I mean,
I went to college down at U of I in Champaign, and there was a bar/laundromat down there that was a pretty good business concept. It works.
right, yeah,
You got time to kill.
Yeah, you got a consumer that's locked in there for about 45 minutes to an hour.
At least,
so
yeah.
That's cool. So what else? We got this Imperial Stout and a black IPA.
My flight's different. I haven't had the black IPA yet. Brad's flight is different from my flight. I went Schwarzbier, Kolsch, West Coast IPA, and hazy. So, and then Brad's is Imperial Stout, Saison, Bohemian Pils, and black IPA.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Black IPA Noir Wall is actually a collaboration we did with Skeleton Key. So, we were like in build out during all of their tornado troubles.
I'll give that to Nick. He loves
Thanks.
he loves
I
black
do like a nice black IPA.
They were doing all this this brewery tour where they were doing collaborations with everybody because their brew house was not, in service. So we were like, God damn, they've done so much for us, and we can't, we're in no position to help out at all. So we've just got open, and I think I started brewing in late September for our November open, and they came in mid-November, and we did that in 2021, and we just did it again in 2022. So I hope that they'll agree to come back all the time and continue brewing it. I really love that beer. And you don't see a ton of black IPAs out in the market, but there are some people who are really, really, really in love with the style.
It had its run, and I was like, why was this a fad?
Yeah.
I feel like Goza's was a fad, and surely after that, black IPA. And then we've been on this hazy train for the longest, or Mexican hot chocolate stout train for the longest. And the black IPA just kind of came and went. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'd rather see that more than some of these other longer trends.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because you look at a beer I think Schwarz, which is having a really good kind of, there's a lot of people who are aware now and in love with this dark but light beer.
Yeah.
And it really seems to have some. But for me, there's so many hoppy fans out there that black IPAs, when done well, are a really kind of clean and interesting mix of flavors, right? You get that nice roast and kind of light chocolate, but still really crisp, right? You're still got bitterness in the back end to kind of clean everything away, and then leave you with a little bright citrus on it. So
yeah, and I think part of it is too some of them kind of graduated to just hoppy stouts. Close Encounter from Pipeworks, that was a black IPA, now it's a hoppy stout. Defender is referred to as an American stout, but it's really a hoppy black
That's right.
beer.
That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't really put that together, but yeah, that is, it's true. It's
Yeah, some of those
good marketing.
some of those find the marketing name for it because, as we've learned, sometimes the style doesn't matter, as you're just like you make up names, kind
Right, because what was it? Lake Effect had a, it was a Belgian wit.
Right.
And they call it a white IPA. And I'm like, this is not, like, no, this
Or
is
the evening Kolsch I got duped on, which was really
Oh my God.
which was really a dark Kolsch, and I was like, I was very disappointed in Half Acre because I was like, I did not want this,
Yeah.
and you tricked me.
You know, I learned early on never to say never
Yeah.
about things I will or won't do, but I did enter into this industry, you know, largely unfamiliar with, but the brief kind of contextually things that I've been just going to breweries for, you know, years and years and years. But I've tried to say, like, you know, I don't want to make up styles. I want to try to live within existing styles, but I also don't want to be hamstrung by the fact that if a beer doesn't exist, I don't want to be afraid to try a combination of flavors.
Yeah.
I do have issue with the hoppy lager. I thought IPL was a great beer style. India Pale Lager, I thought really that like spoke to me, but now
Yeah.
we're branching out into cold IPAs.
Cold IPAs,
and,
yeah.
There's new styles happening all the time that I get, you know, even as a brewer in the industry, I get a little bit like I don't even know what I'm talking about here.
Italian Pilsner, yeah.
What is a California IPA? You know, like this is like they're delicious, but I'm not sure exactly
Yeah.
what to expect.
Where's the
And I also
hazy
have
stout?
I also have a little old man get off my lawn about American IPA now just being it means nothing. Like you have to say West Coast to me, or American IPA is going to be hazy.
Yeah, we
That's kind
talked about that before. The IPA term is it's a very loose term now because some people think it's a hazy, some people think it's a crisp IPA,
Bone dry.
Yeah.
Or it's a West Coast like hot bomb. So
Or,
you
you know,
got-
the Midwest, the bill's too hard. It's totally different from, like, the Stone IPA. Yeah, so, yeah, saying IPA, we need more data. We need more info. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I don't have a descriptor and I just see American IPA, a lot of times I won't necessarily get it because
Yeah.
I don't typically, for leisure, I don't typically drink hazy IPAs a whole ton.
True.
Right.
So I'm always wary of like, I don't know. I got to do a bunch of research to, to check out
Man.
what I'm actually getting into.
Yeah.
What do you drink then? You're brewing all these beers. What's your favorite style? If you could just brew one style of beer all day and everyone bought it all the time, what would you go with?
I think I would, I don't know. I sort of am changing, you know, and I change very seasonally as well. I still will always go for a West Coast IPA if somebody has one on the menu.
Okay. Like you walk in the
that-
door and you see it, you're just getting that.
That'll be my
flight,
that'll
the
be my
first
starting
one.
point, and I'll branch out from there. But you know, recently I've started appreciating like a lot of the beer community, which is awesome. Lighter, more lager, crisper styles that are, I think a little more indicative of how well is a brewer able to put together these minimal pieces and put forward a beer that you could just drink over and over again. So I don't like to hop around all that much these days. I kind of like to settle into one or two beers and like at least styles and really appreciate them for, what you get after a pint. I think flights are great, but I think you really need at least 10 ounces of beer to truly appreciate sort of how it affects your palate over time. So yeah, I would say first West Coast IPA and then probably like a Pilsner.
Okay.
If I would need more tank capacity to only brew Pilsners though.
Okay.
So
What was Cutler's dad thing? If you can't brew a
Oh yeah, draw. If you say you can draw, then draw me a horse, right? So he's like, I don't want to try anything else you made. I want to try the lager. I want to try the pilsner. And if I like that, then I'll go into these other styles. But if you can draw me a horse. That was Cutler's dad's thing. And I'm like, you know what? When you say it like that, and you got this cool mustache,
cool mustache does help. Yeah.
I'm like, he makes a lot of sense.
No, I like that, and I try not to get like too, like I said before, I'm my own worst critic. I have a lot of anxiety. Seems a little strong, but like I really want to make sure that like I didn't start a brewery to put out mediocre beer, right?
Right.
I like, and I know I have a lot of ground to continue to make up, but like I really want to try to put forth styles that I think are representative beers that people want to drink and that are expressive of what that style is supposed to be. So things like the Kolsch or this Bohemian Pils, I am like, as much as I'll say I'm proud of beers, I'm proud of those beers in that they present the style as I think it, at least the BubbleHouse take on close to what it should be. They're bright, they're crisp, and we try to keep things tidy and clean around here to avoid some of those off flavors that can creep in when they don't have a lot of stuff to hide behind.
Beer flavored beer that makes you want to finish this beer and have another beer.
Yeah.
Right. That's these things are important. We take it for granted.
That's my niche. When people ask about me, that's my niche.
Yeah, I want you to have another beer. I want my beer to be good enough that you have another one.
Well, yeah, and I won't. I think what's great about craft beer is that there is so much, the horizon line is so wide for people to express all these different types of beer. I might not love all of them, but certainly if the market's supporting them, then other people do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of beers that I feel are just too over the top that I don't necessarily want to. I don't enjoy drinking them, so I don't want to put them out. To this point, we've stayed away from lactose and things like milkshake IPAs because I just don't think that they have a great drinkability ratio in terms of how many you want to drink before you can.
Where was I? Maybe it was Rabbit Brewing, and she's like, milkshake IPA is like, putting like way too much pepper on the steak. It's like, I didn't come here for the pepper. I came here for the steak. So why is there so much fucking pepper on my steak? That's how she talked about the milkshake IPA stuff. Like, she's not wrong.
It's a crusted steak.
I like that. I think there's room for all this stuff as a expression of what beer can be. How varied and wide can it be, and how many different palates can it serve? Because obviously, craft beer has picked up a lot of people, especially in the IPA category, with toning down bitterness and presenting a lot of citrus, tropical, fruity flavors that are a little bit softer on people's palates. And they go, oh, I thought I hated IPA. It turns out I just don't really like, tongue-raking bitterness.
Right.
So I think I don't want to say that those beers shouldn't exist. I just that's not where
It's not just
that's not where I want to reside as a brewer necessarily.
Yeah.
As a brewer, that came off really like me sitting up here on this pedestal, but no. My personal, the way that I kind of came up brewing and appreciating beer, these are just, I'm brewing more styles that I love and that I want to have more of in the world.
Well, it doesn't benefit any you or breweries that try to chase the trends or chase the styles, because the consumer is very fickle, and so to do that, you just you're always behind, right?
Yeah, it makes more sense to just do what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Whatever your thing is, whatever you like, it makes sense to just do that.
Yeah, and I think, like I said before, more and more, it's also what does our community want, right? So, there's always a worry of mine, I really love this Kolsch. I stand behind it as a beer. It's got a story, right? It's named Flitterwochen because that's honeymoon in German. That's where
Moscow.
My wife and I went up for our honeymoon, and so we have very emotional attachments to this beer. I'm like, God, if people don't love this beer, then and I can't brew it anymore, I'm going to be a little sad. But I'm not going to continue brewing it and have it just sit there. Luckily, people enjoy it, and it's gone far. But that's like the Mexican lager. I was like, oh, why did we pick this style that eats up our tank space for longer, and now that's what everybody wants to drink in the summer, and people keep going, when's it coming back? And I thought it was going to be a once a year, for the summer concert series thing.
Everybody's like, play that song, man. Play that song.
Yeah. And so, now I'm like, okay, so we've got to change we got to get more equipment in that allows us to create that beer more often. So more than anything, I shouldn't frame it as only what I want, but our regulars and our fans who are coming back, week after week, what do they want? And what do they prefer to have fill that glass? Luckily for me, a lot of times they like that. Last week we had this West Coast, now we have this different West Coast, right? And so they're similar styles, but just a different representation of hops and a combination of ingredients. Yeah. So, that to me is a good fan base to have because they're supportive of stretching the styles to a point. Yeah. Although a lot of people come in here and say, I'm so happy you don't have a million, only hazy IPAs available or whatever. And I've told them that sells. So the minute we get over like a third of our menu is hazy IPAs, you can pull me aside and kind of say like, hey, John, you said that this was never going to happen here. And I'll be like, that's true. Let me do something about it. We'll balance out a little bit more.
And talking about the community, like we're here, it's 420 today, and
Yeah.
there's a lot happening out there. You got a food truck, there's a game night with some sort of like crooker.
There's some game that our guy told us about, and he said the name of the game, and we're like, I have no idea what you're saying right now.
It is crokinole, and I will use this opportunity to pronounce that it is probably the best taproom game that exists. Now, I probably shouldn't say that because I don't want other people to start stealing it from us, but it is essentially kind of like shuffleboard or bags on a tabletop, right? It's the
Okay.
kind of game where you don't need to pay attention, so you can have a conversation, drink beers with your friends. When it's your turn, you look at the lay of the land and you decide what your play is. So we have recently partnered up with a crokinole club, Windy City Crokinole. Who is they're the ones who are coming in on Thursday.
We never heard of this before today, and now there's a club.
Google it because it's becoming bigger and bigger. It's out of Canada, so in Canada they're crazy about it. You can find like YouTube tournaments of it, and it's like a bunch of people at folding card tables in a VFW, and they're pretty intense about it.
Crokinole.
Crokinole. Crokinole. It's amazing.
Okay.
Amazing game. Again, takes a little effort because the boards are massive and wooden, so we had to create I built a special holder for them over in the corner, but it's something that we discovered at a brewery.
Yeah.
My wife and I, of all places, than a brewery in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's about as far from the Canadian border as you can get. But we wound up, instead of going out to dinner that night, we wound up staying there and drinking beers with strangers playing crokinole for like 4 hours.
Okay.
So we pretty much, and then it took me like 3 years to try to remember how to spell that game, or it was actually, if you could see the Google searches I probably did at that time, they were pretty comical because I didn't remember the name, but it was like disc flicking something, wooden game.
You started to second guess yourself, like, did I make all this up?
That happened? Someone make this up? Because that's cool. Yeah, we haven't seen that because everyone's got the like string with the hook now. Like every place has that.
Well, so we're trying to build more of a community around it. I will say this, like we've had trouble building specific nights for it. Everyone who comes in when they're here, we have 3 boards in-house, and those 3 boards are quickly out on the floor on a busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So everyone loves playing it, but I think people get a little scared off when we say like, hey, we're going to have like a tournament, even though it's just kind of casual, meant to have fun.
Sure, yeah.
But they're like, wow, that's not me. I'm not a tournament crokinole player.
Right.
So funny.
That's like another level.
So yeah, we try to keep, that's part of the game, right? It's good beer. It's also events and giving people a reason to come out, right? You can drink a lot of good beer in Chicagoland at many different locations. So we're all sort of eating from that same pie.
And then the food truck thing, can you just order food and have it delivered too? So anything, or can you just strictly to the food truck?
We actually, we promote and partner with a local Lisle, like Italian restaurant, pizzeria.
Okay.
So they do free delivery here. But yeah, we encourage people to support our vendors when they show up on site and have food to buy. But when we don't have a food truck, people bring in carry out or order pizzas in. I'm in the process. This is a
exclusive
announcement.
Talk about it.
Maybe I shouldn't because
I don't know. We're always breaking news.
It's not that great.
People don't
but
appreciate it.
Our plan is
we
either I dreamed it or once upon a time I came upon an establishment that had a pizza phone. So I have a phone in-house that is not hooked up yet because I got a lot of shit going on. And
so it's like a red phone,
like
it's like a bat phone,
like Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, it has no dial. You just pick it up, and it's going to call our buddies Brazzi's in Lisle.
I love this.
And we're going to try to design like a little. Man, I'm giving away too much.
Like a pizza booth, like a phone booth, but it's.
Well, I don't want to go that far because I got limited floor space in here. But
this is good, man.
A pizza phone where you pick it up and it just connects you to them. So that's been my dream. And my wife's like, did you dream this or did you actually encounter this somewhere? And I feel like I encountered it somewhere, but I can't remember where.
They would have to have a phone too, right? Like I don't know how.
Well, they have a phone.
Right, but they would have to have a separate. I don't.
No.
I don't even know how this works.
No, I'm not going to waste. I'm not going to waste your listeners' time talking about the weird coding that you have to do to program this phone to dial a certain number, but it happens.
Okay.
Once it hits production, it's
Yeah.
going to be good.
Yeah.
That's going to be good.
I told my wife it's a lifelong dream, and she said it's absolutely not a lifelong dream. So it's probably been the last, 10 to 20 years.
Like I was 5 years old and I just wanted to
Pizza
pick up the
phone.
phone. That's crazy. Okay. So we got to play this game,
Yeah, man.
get food, get pizza, get tamales today.
Yeah, Tamales Plus has been, so we met her and we instantly fell in love with her. She was really kind of vibed with us, and so she's been looking for places to kind of post up in regional locations, and she's really trying to push pre-orders. So tamales are a great, they keep and reheat pretty well.
Yeah.
So she's been here the last couple Thursdays, and she's going to be here the Thursdays at least through May. Post up to serve not only our taproom customers, but also, she'll take, pre-orders online, and then you can come pick up, 2 dozen tamales or whatever. And
That's cool.
Hell yeah.
Being
For
in
the week,
Chicago,
so-
we love a tamale guy who just
Yeah.
comes around, shows up when you need him.
Yeah. Even if you don't know you need him, he's there.
He's there.
Yeah,
Like,
I've had a few nights in my life where a tamale guy was
It saved
a
it.
welcome sight. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, man. Love the space, man. I appreciate what you're doing here. I like what you talk about with the education piece with the smash beers, right? Or just kind of having approachable styles where
Yeah.
people can be excited and not have, not be intimidated by all these different types of beers. This is all a very cool scene, man. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's big to me. I think when I was going through like the COD courses,
Yeah.
a lot of people always said you could have C- beer and A+ service and do pretty well, or you could have A+ beer and C- service, and you might not make it to your second year, right? Because beer is a experience, and the music you're listening to, the company you're in, can really affect your appreciation of a style. So like that's one thing that I'm trying to impress on our staff, and I've been very fortunate that the people we hired are they feel like family now. They just are really great people, and they care about BubbleHouse, I think, as much as I do, maybe more sometimes. But welcoming people into this space is the first step in creating somebody who wants to come back. So we're trying to be a place where people can learn about beer and experience different styles and just have a relaxed atmosphere to hang out in and not feel overwhelmed or like they don't know enough about beer to appreciate a beer, right? I don't ever want beer really to approach wine territory where people feel locked out because of price points or just knowledge or whatever that case might be, right? Beer is it's for the people, right? It's for
So
the people
true.
to
It's
kind
so
of
true.
to come together over. And it's been a huge, I think it's a huge benefit in moderation for to have
Or something.
Yeah. Well, there's time for everything, right?
And then with Illinois Craft Beer Week coming up, do you have events planned, or you gonna be at Beer Under Glass?
So we will be at Beer Under Glass. We do.
You going to be on the glass?
Yeah, should. Yeah, I'll be back from Montana. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have, I think we have some big weeks and beer releases planned for that. We may be releasing the freshest batch of that Mexican lager, Isle of Lisle, around that time.
Bringing that to Beer Under Glass?
We'll see.
Okay.
I like to keep that close to my chest a little bit. But no, whatever style is hitting best at that moment, that's what we'll try to bring.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll be there. I know we have a lot of food and music throughout those weekends that kind of surround Beer Under Glass. So
Yeah.
it should be a pretty awesome time. The passport system is coming back for this year, which is different than in past years where, if you guys remember, it was like a window where you took a picture of and posted it. This is an actual physical passport that people would get to kind of travel around and.
Yeah, they have done the passport many a times, and I have never understood it. So we visit places all the time, so
Yeah.
it's hard for us to be like, well.
I think for a certain sect of people, it's just
It's fun.
it's a thing that, again, the Guild is doing, which I think is amazing, to just try to generate people's interest in trying new places. So
Totally.
don't just go to the places that are 15 minutes from your house. If you've heard good things about a place that's 30 minutes, go make a day of it, right? Go to Tinley Park and check out Sound Growler and Hailstorm
got 4
and
breweries out there.
Brothership and all, there's pockets growing up everywhere. So if you love beer that much, go out and sample other people's stuff. And I think all of us in the industry are really receptive to that because that's what we're here for, right? We want new people to come in and experience it and tell their friends and say they had a good, bad, or
we do
indifferent.
why we do the podcast, really,
That's very
right?
true. Yeah. Speaking of friends, this is right off the expressway. It's pretty easy to get here. But who are some of your closest brewery friends nearby? So if someone comes out and they go to BubbleHouse and they come to BubbleHouse, what are some of the other cool spots that you like to hit for breweries-wise? Just a couple of close breweries.
Well, obviously Skeleton Key,
Skeleton Key, that's right. Darien.
Can't shout them out enough.
Ike and Oak is pretty close.
Ike and Oak's right around the corner, so
Yeah.
yeah, we go there. My family goes there a lot for dinner and beers. I'm a big fan of the guys over at Miskatonic in Darien. And we've got the new
Crazy fucking logo at Miskatonic.
Yeah.
Like the chick with the dress and the
Yeah.
tentacles. What is, I don't know. Okay.
HP Lovecraft. That's some good stuff. And they're actually opening a new downtown Naperville spot.
Miskatonic is?
Yeah, with a restaurant. So that's supposed to be coming this year. But then we got the new Whistle location. Sawmilk is in Naperville.
Yeah.
Alter's right down the street. Goldfinger's down in Downers Grove. So we were just over at Downers Grove. We like to try to, as a small team, try to use Friday afternoons when places are open to go and have little mini meetings over beer. So
Okay.
we just were over at Goldfinger enjoying some lager the other week.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, I actually think that this Ogden corridor is actually kind of growing. We're the newest addition, but there's kind of Goldfinger right off Ogden. There's Alter there in Downers Grove. There's us, Salmo, New Whistle are all kind of, following that
okay.
same path.
That's awesome. Man, sounds like all right, so you got to make it out to BubbleHouse. You got a lot of options for other places to hit up. Food here, you got Bavarian Lodge, you could even just, if you're going over to Oakbrook too, there's all those food options and another Altar there that has food.
Yeah, that's the fun thing that we found is like because we're close to 88 and 355, a lot of the places that we try to travel to aren't that actually far. We can get to Church Street in Itasca in 20 minutes or so, So it's, a lot of these places are situated in industrial spaces, which are commonly off of well-traveled, highways and major roads.
move around.
We actually have a pretty good jumping-off point that we're trying to kind of expand.
Unlike the town we come from, where it's taking an hour to go fucking 2 miles.
2 miles, yeah.
So it's cool. It's a totally different scene. I would encourage anybody, man, if you want an excuse to come escape, occupy Chicago, or if you're in another suburb, northern burb, or wherever you are, you can come make a day out of the western suburb wrong. So that'd be cool. And make BubbleHouse one of the stops. This is a very cool spot.
Yeah. So yeah, cheers. Thanks for having us. This was great.
Brad, Nick, appreciate it. Thanks for coming out.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care.